Welcome back to Healthy Families, brought to you by Healthy Food Guide, the podcast where we explore practical tips and expert advice to help families eat well through every stage of life. I'm Jess Burvill.
And I'm Kathleen Alleaume. And on today's podcast, we're diving into one of life's little joys, coffee. So for many of us, it's the perfect way to start the day. But how much is just right? We'll explore the benefits of caffeine and how it energizes the body. So let's be real though, coffee has to be the world's most popular drink, right?
Yeah, that's right. Coffee is the most consumed beverage in the world and actually overtook tea recently. Now, here in Australia, we love our coffee. 3/4 of us have at least 1 cup of coffee a day, and some of us are actually having 3 or more cups a day on a regular basis. No judgment, we've all been there. Now, on average, though, we're actually consuming about 2 kilos of coffee per person each year, and that puts Australia amongst the world's top coffee-loving nations.
Wow, we sure do take our brew seriously. So, Jess, why do you drink coffee?
Oh, look, I love coffee, and I don't think I could survive without it, if I'm being completely honest. It's probably a combination of that little, wakes me up in the morning, but it's just really part of my daily ritual. I find drinking a coffee really comforting. I love the social aspect. I love going down to the coffee shop and chatting to the barista, and I love it when they remember my name. And yeah, it's just something, it's a real pleasure in my life that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's really the caffeine. For me, it's definitely the caffeine. It's a little wake me up. It's a call to my nervous system. It makes me feel alert. But it's also, like you said, Jess, it's such a habit. It's become such a habit in the morning. I feel like I can't kind of start my morning without it. You know the saying, but first coffee.
First coffee.
So there's some truth to that for sure.
Now, look, I have to say, one of the questions I get asked all the time as a dietitian is there such a thing as too much coffee? Now, what do you think, Kath? What do the guidelines tell us about how much coffee to drink?
So when we talk about coffee limits, it's really about the caffeine, right? So this is the natural stimulant that gives coffee its kick. So here's how it works. So caffeine blocks a little chemical called adenosine. Now, this is a brain chemical that makes you feel tired. So that's why your morning brew gives you such an energy boost. It boosts your focus. It lifts your moods, as we both mentioned earlier. But here's the catch. Too much caffeine can feel you feeling jittery, anxious, and can mess with your sleep. So that's why there are recommended limits. So what are the recommended limits, Jess?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about limits, the key thing to remember is that everybody reacts to coffee and caffeine differently. Some people will have a much higher tolerance and they can build that up over time. So if you've been drinking coffee a long time on a regular basis, it's more likely that you can tolerate more than somebody who is only just starting to drink coffee. But we do have some guidelines in place which recommend drinking no more than 400 milligrams of coffee a day. And for women who are pregnant or trying to get pregnant or breastfeeding, they should be limiting that to about 200 milligrams a day.
So let's put that in perspective. What exactly is 400 milligrams?
So 400 milligrams is around 4 standard espresso shots of coffee. Now, we know that the amount of caffeine can vary from cafe to cafe, depending on the cup size, the type of bean used. But on average, you're looking at probably 4 single shots of espresso. But if you're having a double or a large coffee, remember there's 2 shots in that. So that would, 400 milligrams would equate to 2 large coffees. And if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, that'd be 1 large coffee a day.
No, I think that's important, Jens, because speaking of tolerance, your body can really adapt over time, meaning that, those regular coffee drinkers might not feel the same buzz as someone who really, consumes caffeine. And I think also not all coffee is created equal because everywhere you go, it's going to be different. And like the instant coffee at home, again, is even less than your espresso shot. So it depends. And not also considering as well is caffeine is found in not just coffee, it's found in tea. It's also found in some medications. We've got supplements and also those energy drinks too. So whilst we're talking about coffee and we talk about the caffeine in coffee, be mindful that caffeine is in other forms as well.
Correct. Okay, so we're just going to cut to a quick break now and we'll be back shortly.
Eggs are bad. Eggs are good. Cut carbs, boost carbs. Ugh, with so much conflicting information, what's truly healthy? Healthyfood.com cuts through the noise to deliver credible, science-backed nutrition advice from qualified dietitians to ensure you make the best decisions for your lifestyle. A subscription to healthyfood.com gives you access to thousands of easy, delicious, healthy recipes, meal plans, and more. Visit healthyfood.com to start your journey to better health today.
Okay, we're back. So what people really want to know, what are the health benefits of drinking coffee?
Well, the good news is for all you coffee lovers out there is that we actually have a huge body of research and lots of new papers coming out all the time, which are showing many positive health benefits associated with regularly drinking coffee. Now, coffee contains over 1,000 bioactive compounds, and these include things like polyphenols and antioxidants, which we know have so many wonderful health benefits, and that can include things like reducing risk of chronic diseases. Now, a big meta-analysis actually came out late last year, which was very interesting. Now, a meta-analysis is like a summary of lots of other research which has been done, and it's kind of regarded as being a very high quality standard of evidence. And this particular study covered 11 meta-analyses from over 457,000 individual papers looking at nearly 12 million people, and they concluded that regularly drinking 4 cups of coffee a day significantly reduced your risk of developing stroke, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. And we know that these diseases are some of the leading causes of death in our society.
Oh, that's interesting, Jess. I actually found another recent analysis of coffee consumption, and this particular research was looking more at the timing. It looked at 40,000 adults and found that morning coffee drinkers were less likely to die of premature death than those who didn't drink coffee in the morning. So timing could be a thing here.
Timing is important. And I think that really leads into the next thing we wanted to cover today was, we've talked about lots of the benefits of drinking coffee, but there are a couple of things to watch out for. And the main one is really about the potential impact that having too much coffee can have on your sleep. Now, we know how important sleep is to our health, and we want to be getting those, 7 or 8 or even 9 hours of sleep in every night. And for some people, coffee can really impact on that sleep. I do know some people who can drink like a double shot of espresso at 9 o'clock at night and sleep like a baby, whereas other people find that it can really disrupt their sleep. And when we look at what the evidence says, on average, it recommends that we should try and have our last coffee by no later than midday, just to make sure there's enough time for the caffeine to leave your system.
Yes, because caffeine in itself has a half-life of around 2 to 12 hours, which that means it actually sits in your body or, it takes that long to digest. But as you mentioned before, Jess, is that for some people that 2 hours, or for some it could be 12. So it really depends on your tolerance level. And I think that also comes down to your genes as well.
Yeah, and that's the reason why the recommendation for pregnant women is lower, because the time that the caffeine takes to leave your body is actually much longer when you're pregnant. That's why you need to drink less than somebody who's not pregnant.
Okay, we'll be right back. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the impact of caffeine on weight.
Love the taste of Corn Thins crisp breads? Imagine that irresistible popcorn flavour in a crispy crunchy snack that's perfect for anytime munching. Well, your wishes come true. Introducing Corn Thins Minis, the snack we've been perfecting for years. These bite-sized delights are made from real grains of corn, heated until they pop like popcorn into slightly puffed wavy snacks with a crispy texture that are impossible to put down. Eat them straight from the bag like chips or pair them with your favourite dips. They're your new go-to snack. Find Corn Thins Minis in the biscuit aisle at Woolworths. Available in 2 delicious flavours, cheddar cheese and sour cream and chives. Corn Thins Minis, like popcorn in a cracker.
Okay, we're back. So one final thing we wanted to cover was the impact of coffee on weight loss. Jess, what are your thoughts on that? What are you seeing with your clients?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kath. And whilst we know that caffeine has a very mild effect on increasing your metabolic rate for maybe an hour or so, what I'm really concerned about is this trend I'm seeing in particular amongst women, where they're skipping breakfast and replacing breakfast with a coffee, or maybe the morning is even 2 coffees and there's no food coming in till around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, by which time, really hungry, they've missed an opportunity to get, that really nourishing meal in for breakfast with a good source of protein and fiber and carbohydrates for energy. So what ends up happening is you kind of spend the whole day in a bit of a energy deficit. You're chasing your tail, and you get to the middle of the afternoon with low energy levels, and it can actually end up having the complete opposite effect because you arrive home hungry and end up overeating. So look, generally, it's a trend I think is not particularly helpful when it comes to weight loss. What would be much better is actually just to have a nice, balanced, nourishing breakfast. Have a coffee either with your breakfast or even at mid-morning, but don't use it as a replacement for a meal. Remember that coffee it's a drink, it's a beverage, it's a stimulant, it's not a meal.
But it's interesting when I noted earlier that meta-analysis with the benefits of the time you consume coffee, like for those who are, okay, say let's do practicing or, undergoing intermittent fasting and not consuming anything until lunchtime, and coffee perhaps is their source of beverage. When you look at the meta-analysis that looked at the benefits of morning drinkers, that was within consumption of a balanced diet. So I think that's important to highlight. I think when you're consuming caffeine, the impact on hormones, which we didn't actually highlight, is the cortisol levels. It can stress the stress hormones out. It can, peak those up, and that in itself can mess with your circadian rhythms. So naturally, drinking caffeine in the morning is great, but not doing it without meals, like having breakfast, a nourishing breakfast in conjunction, that would be the ideal situation.
Yeah, that's right. All right, well, that's it for today. We hope you've enjoyed chatting about coffee as much as we have. We know it's one of Australia's favourite drinks, and it's one of ours as well. We'll pop the notes from those couple of studies that we talked about in the show notes on our podcast page on our website. And if you have any questions about coffee, please send them in to us at Healthy Food Guide, and we look forward to chatting to you next time.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate and review. So I'm up for a coffee, Jess. What about you?
I am definitely up for a coffee.